You won't like it, but if you want to retire as soon as possible, you need to be able to identify several harsh truths about retirement planning that catch many retirees off guard. As the owner of an independent financial planning firm, I've seen countless retirees struggle during their retirement because they incorporated common but incorrect financial planning recommendations that quickly derailed their finances. And that's exactly why I'm making today's video. So in today's video, I'm going to break down some common misconceptions and explain why they're wrong. And you're going to want to stick around until the end of this video because I'm going to provide practical alternatives that you can use to protect yourself. The first and most important harsh truth, which is that you need a high probability of success or a high Monte Carlo score in order to have a safe retirement. My experience speaking to hundreds of people who are planning for their retirement is that more often than not, Monte Carlo scores are actually interpreted improperly. And this can lead to people working far longer than they need to, or to having significantly more anxiety than is warranted. It can feel like in order to win, you need to get as close as possible to an 100% score because that's the only way to achieve victory. Well, it's entirely possible for someone with a 100% probability of success to have a miserable retirement, and someone with a 65% probability of success to have a wonderful retirement. The issue at hand is that probability of success scores don't tell you how to have a good retirement. More accurately translated, Monte Carlo scores actually say something like, how likely are you to have to change something at some point during your retirement? So an 100% probability of success would indicate that given the scenario you input in the tool, you would have a 0% chance of needing to make a change at some point. A 50% probability of success would indicate that you'd have a 50% chance of needing to make a change at some point. Now, in reality, an 100% probability of success only occurs for three reasons. The first is that you're being way too conservative with your spending. The second is that you're retiring way later than you need to. And the third is that you have so much money that your spending has zero impact on your wealth. Now, scenarios 1 and 2 are by far the most likely scenarios. Most of us aren't sitting on such a huge pile of money that we just can't figure out how to spend it. Now, part of the reason that scenarios 1 and 2 are by far the most likely scenarios is because Monte Carlo scoring systems inherently reward people for working longer, having shorter retirement periods, and spending less in retirement. The fear of not being at 100% probability of success drives people towards those same actions, working longer, shortening their retirement period, and spending dribbles of their assets. Now, if you want extra help identifying when to retire yourself without relying on luck, you can click the first link in the description below and register for our completely free webinar where I share some pointers on this exact topic. The second truth is that Monte Carlo-based retirement planning tools are the best way to plan for retirement. Now, Monte Carlo scoring or probability of success scoring is a highly sophisticated way to model possible retirement outcomes. As technology has improved, retirement planning tools built around Monte Carlo analysis systems have become extremely popular. As a retiree, you would pop in your personal information, your age, how much money you have, what types of investments you hold, and then you'd populate the tool with hypothetical information, estimates of things that you think you might spend each year in retirement, or your expected lifespan, the expected lifespan of your spouse, or the expected growth rate on your assets, among a host of other hypothetical inputs. Then the tool would run a Monte Carlo analysis, 1,000 scenarios using historical data that ultimately gives you a score that says, out of those 1,000 scenarios, how likely are you to run out of money while alive, given the hypothetical inputs put into the tool. The Monte Carlo analysis is then scored between 0 and 100%, and the higher the Monte Carlo score, the fewer tested scenarios in which you run out of money. So there are several serious problems a retiree faces if they rely too heavily on Monte Carlo-based retirement plans. The first problem is that a Monte Carlo score tells you nothing about what you should do. If you achieve a 60% probability of success, the scoring tool can give you zero guidance about what that 60% means, whether you should improve it, what to do to actually improve it. And that's because it's a reactive tool. It uses data that you input to give you a result. If you do everything you tell the tool you plan to do, how likely in that one specific scenario would you be to run out of money while still alive? The second problem is that the use of probability of success-based tools can lead to gamification, right? It's the pursuit of optimizing your score without actually optimizing your life. Fiddle with a dial here, fiddle with an input there, change your age of death, tell the tool that you might spend less once you retire, and voila, you turn a 60% probability of success into an 87% probability of success. The problem is, You don't know how long you're going to live. You also don't know that you will be able to spend less money once you retire. And unlike video games, with money and retirement, you don't get do-overs. So it really behooves you to be extremely sure that the hypotheticals you plug into the Monte Carlo system are actually things that you have control over. And this leads us to the third and final harsh truth. There's no such thing as a safe withdrawal rate. There's only a safe withdrawal system. A safe withdrawal rate would technically tell you, a retiree, how much money you can take out of your portfolio each year in retirement. More so, that safe withdrawal rate would ideally be predictable and definable, meaning you would be able to somehow quantify it and document it for every year of your retirement in advance of retiring. This is a complete fallacy, but the 4% rule, which most of you will know of, reinforces this idea that somehow, using historical data, we can identify a safe withdrawal rate that is universally applicable for all retirees and know it in advance of our actual retirement for every year of our retirement. Now, there are a whole host of problems that retirees face when they are under the impression that a safe withdrawal rate of this nature is possible to identify. The first is that this leads to what I call chasing behavior. It's this feeling or sense that when I achieve some unicorn number, some portfolio value, that when using the safe withdrawal rate can meet all my financial needs with 100% confidence, then and only then I'll be able to retire. And so oftentimes we end up working longer than we might otherwise need to as we pursue this mythical portfolio value. The second problem is that we end up with false confidence because we've achieved a portfolio value which, when using the safe withdrawal rate, can never fail. And then this leads to the third problem, which is that a safe withdrawal rate is not actually a dynamic plan, and we therefore end up without a system or a set of contingency plans that tell us what to do when things are better or worse than expected. Now, when it comes to safe withdrawal rates, I always ask myself the following questions. First, how can something be universally applicable to all retirees? Every one of you watching this video is unique. You live in a unique location, you have a unique amount of savings, unique desired spending, unique hobbies, unique family situation, unique health conditions. Even more so, you have your own unique definition of safe. The second question I ask is, how can we ever truly know something in advance that applies across such a long time horizon, the 30-year or 40-year retirement? Most of us don't know what we're going to eat for tomorrow's lunch, let alone be able to forecast all of the financial, economic, demographic, and personal variables that go into producing a safe withdrawal rate into perpetuity. The illusion that we can somehow have a predictable safe withdrawal rate needs to be done away with, in my opinion, replaced with conversations about safe withdrawal systems. Now, if you want to learn more about where a safe withdrawal system fits into a complete retirement plan, click the link in the description to watch a completely free webinar where I break down how to implement a safe withdrawal system into your retirement plan. And speaking of safe withdrawal systems, you're going to want to stay tuned for the back half of this video where I'm going to walk you through on screen an example safe withdrawal system and what it looks like. For the first half of this video, I've been making the case that safe withdrawal rates in Monte Carlo systems have major weaknesses. So where do they actually fit into proper retirement planning, in my opinion? And what can you do to manage or operate around the limitations that I've described in the first half of this video? My opinion is that a safe withdrawal system is the solution. A safe withdrawal system takes the best parts of what safe withdrawal rate research and Monte Carlo analysis tools have to offer, and it gives us an operational frame to work within. I believe there are 3 elements to a good safe withdrawal system, and I'm going to show you these on the screen in a couple moments. The first is to understand what probability of success-based tools actually tell you versus what they do not, which is what we've already covered. The second element is to use a dynamic withdrawal strategy. My particular favorite is the modern guardrails approach, and that's what I'm going to show in a moment here. And the third element is to have a dynamic system of if-then rules. Rules that allow you to track specific things and then recommend specific actions based on the tracked or monitored result. Now let me show you this in real time on the screen here. What I have here is a several sheet spreadsheet. And the first sheet here is exported from our modern guardrails tool called Income Laboratory. The second sheet, which I'll show you in a couple of moments, comes from our Monte Carlo based tool, which is called RICP. Now these two tools are used in conjunction to support our safe withdrawal rate system. The first sheet here is going to show, as I unfold it on the screen for you, is going to show a hypothetical person's modern guardrails spending recommendations. So what we've done is we supply the tool with specific inputs: the hypothetical client's age, their desired date of retirement, an estimate of how long they might live, the quantity of their wealth, and the composition of their wealth. We also supply income labs with spending parameters, but instead of telling the tool how much money the client wants to spend, we tell this particular tool how comfortable this client would be with making spending adjustments at some point in the future. And you can see that right here on the screen. That's what this setting comes from in Income Labs. Now, in the example I'm going to use for this demonstration of our safe withdrawal system, we supply parameters that say the client would like to target an income with an estimated 20% risk of overspending and an 80% risk of underspending. Translated better, it would sound more like a 20% likelihood of needing to make a spending reduction during retirement. And then based on the data inputs, this client has generated the guardrails that I'm going to show you on the screen here. In this middle column or middle row here, their current portfolio value is at roughly $2.5 million. As a result, their safe withdrawal rate for the first year of retirement would be $150,000 roughly, or $12,524 per month. Now, their lower guardrail would be triggered when the portfolio value hits $1.77 million. This would be the point at which they'd have to make a spending reduction of roughly 5%, and you can see the corresponding dollar amounts in the row below. Their upper guardrail would be triggered at roughly $2.7 million in value, and this would cause a 7% spending increase. Now, they don't have to change their spending if they don't want to, but they'd be eligible for that 7% spending increase. Obviously, lower guardrail triggers would be non-negotiable. Upper guardrail triggers would be a nice to have. Now, we can also change the spending parameters based on the level of comfort for the client. So if this client were to say 20% risk of overspending is too high for me, I want a 1% risk of overspending, what would their initial safe withdrawal amount be? Well, we can tab over to the second sheet here. It looks exactly the same. Just the numbers in the actual withdrawal columns here have changed. And you can see now we target an income with an estimated 1% risk of overspending, 99% risk of underspending. Their initial safe withdrawal amount would be $136,979 compared to the initial safe withdrawal amount of $150,288. Their guardrails would also be a little bit tighter on both sides, meaning they trigger an upper guardrail a little sooner, but they also trigger a lower guardrail much sooner. Now, the question you're probably asking yourself is, how are these guardrails actually generated? Well, they're actually generated using the same historical data used in a Monte Carlo analysis, but the main difference here is that a traditional Monte Carlo-based tool like RICP will not supply you with your initial safe withdrawal rate, which is why people turn to the 4% rule, because they don't know what their safe withdrawal rate could be, so hopefully they use the 4% rule to fill that void. Now you'll notice that I've repeatedly said initial safe withdrawal rate, and that's because that's exactly what it is. It's initial, and we don't know what the future has in store, so we can't assume that this safe withdrawal rate will work into perpetuity or in the future. Rather, what we need is a system that tells us, based on changes to our portfolio value and based on the best historical data we have, what would this particular person's safe withdrawal amount be? Now, I'm going to show you a demonstration of this in a second, but before I do that, one other thing to note is that using modern guardrails, we can test the hypothetical client's safe withdrawal amount during historic market periods. So on the screen here I'll show, for instance, in this specific scenario, using this hypothetical 61-year-old with roughly $2.5 million in starting portfolio value, if they'd retired right before the Great Depression, that's what this graph here shows, their starting portfolio value would have been worth $972,000 at the end of their retirement period. So they would have had a starting monthly withdrawal amount of roughly $12,524 per month, which by the end of their life, because it would have triggered 3 lower guardrails but 5 upper guardrails, would end up being $18,300 per month. But again, while historical data is really useful, we don't really know how the future is going to play out. The beauty of guardrails is how they can be used in a safe withdrawal system, which leads us to the second spreadsheet I'm going to show you here, which is now a table of withdrawals. This is the actual nuts and bolts of the system. In this sheet here, we have a column for the age of the person, for the withdrawal year or distribution year, the starting portfolio value, the safe withdrawal amount, the desired withdrawal amount. The desired withdrawal amount is the amount that the client tells us they want to spend in order to achieve the lifestyle they desire. Oftentimes, we're supplied a desired withdrawal amount without knowing what our safe withdrawal amount is at that time. And then the final column in the spreadsheet is what we call wiggle room. And this is just the difference, either a surplus or a deficit, between what modern guardrails tells us the safe initial withdrawal amount is versus the client's desired withdrawal amount. And there's a surplus withdrawals that can be, if there are surplus withdrawals, those can be allocated to things like Roth conversions, gifts, or additional personal spending, but on a to-be-determined basis, which I'm going to show in a moment. Now, a quick note, I've been talking about initial withdrawal amounts, but on the screen here, I'm showing two columns, or two rows, 2 years of withdrawals. So what gives? Well, the second row is an estimate of what the withdrawal amount would be if neither upper or lower guardrails were to trigger. In actuality, what we need to do is we need to monitor this in a particular manner, which I'm going to show you on the screen now. So in this second sheet here, we're going to begin with this hypothetical client's first year with this safe withdrawal rate system, safe withdrawal amount system. It's 2025 and the client's starting portfolio value is $2.5 million. Their safe withdrawal amount is $150,288 for the year. Their desired withdrawal amount is $116,827. Now, both of those numbers are gross, meaning before taxes. Based on the guardrails in this scenario, the hypothetical client would expect to have about $33,000 in wiggle room or surplus withdrawal availability. Now, over the course of the year, this person's withdrawals would be tracked. By the 10th or 11th month of the year, that amount would be noted in this column here called the YTD, or year-to-date distribution amount. We can use a formula then, or even use knowledge of what our spending might be for the last remaining month or two of the year to estimate the year-end total of withdrawals, which is this next column here, estimated annual distribution. With that done, we can arrive at a much more accurate estimate of the person's surplus. Let's say in this hypothetical scenario, this client looks to be withdrawing less than the estimated amount, leading to a larger than expected surplus. And that surplus can then be used to fund gifting or charitable contributions or Roth conversions. In fact, this last column here is a nifty calculator that would actually help the client estimate the amount of Roth conversions that would fit within their safe withdrawal amount. Then, come the 12th month of the year, the starting portfolio value for the following year can be noted here in the second row, in 2026 in this case, and we can refer back to our guardrails to see if an upper or lower guardrail was triggered. Now in this example, neither guardrail is triggered, so we'd go into this column and supply it with a no, and so we note that. Then we inflation adjust the first year's safe withdrawal amount, and repeat this process each year for the remainder of the retirement period. Each year end, decisions would be made with any surplus of withdrawal availability if it exists. And the client would not need to, if a surplus exists, they would not need to gift, spend, or Roth convert with those funds if they prefer not to. But if they had an inclination to do so, this system would provide safe parameters to do that. And over the course of the year, withdrawal amounts would be monitored to ensure that the trajectory of those withdrawals would never push someone above the safe withdrawal threshold. In scenarios where someone is pushed above a safe withdrawal threshold as a result of an emergency or an unplanned sudden event, the guardrails and suggested withdrawal amount would be recalculated to bring the spending plan back into the desired range of risk of overspending. I personally believe guardrails combined with a safe withdrawal system of the type I've shown today are by far the most effective method of retirement planning. This type of system makes it clear what we should monitor, how, and how often to monitor it. It also gets us more engaged with our finances, which increases our comprehension and ultimately leads to better compliance with the system and also lower anxiety in retirement. So now that you know the 3 mistakes that can derail your retirement and you've seen a practical alternative, you can plan your retirement accordingly without the worry of wondering if you've done enough. A safe withdrawal system is a great start, but there are other aspects of retirement planning that I obviously haven't been able to cover in this video today. And if you want more help with your exact situation, then click the first link in the description and register for our completely free webinar. Thank you as always for your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next video.